everybody, welcome along to episode 107 of Percussion Discussion. As always, I'm going to ask you to please check out our social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. A like and a follow always goes a long way, so if you wouldn't mind, that really, really helps. And don't forget to check out our world-famous YouTube channel where you can find all of our conversations, past and present. Of course, you'll be able to watch these as well as listen to them. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, that really helps us, and it also helps other drummers find us too. You won't find any adverts on the YouTube channel, so don't worry about that. If you prefer to listen in podcast form, then you will find all of our conversations free to download from your favorite podcast provider. Please rate and review us. Again, this helps other drummers find and hopefully enjoy the conversations that we bring to you. On to today's guest. I've been after this gentleman for a long time, for almost a year. He's an incredibly busy guy. This young man, 20 years old, a native of New York, has been setting the internet on fire for the last 3 years with his explosive videos, everything from the Flintstones to Caravan to classic Buddy Rich transcriptions, just the most incredible talent you will ever wish to see. And he's a very humble young guy as well. It gives me absolute, total and utter pleasure to welcome the fabulous Greyson Nekrutman. Greyson, thank you so much for doing this. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Oh, hey, it's a pleasure. It really is. It's an absolute thrill. And before we start, I have to say congratulations on your recent Drumeo Award, the Tony Williams Award. How cool is that?
It was awesome. Big surprise too. Had a little, secret like, hey, you got it about a week earlier than the actual show, but I was still blown away. I was like, wow, I actually did that. So nice surprise.
Amazing. I bet it was hard to keep that one to yourself though, wasn't it?
Yeah, just told my family and I was like, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was awesome.
At least they spelt your name right, unlike poor Phil Collins. Did you see that one?
I did.
I hope they're correct. Somebody's going to be going, no, Phil Collins.
No.
But
poor Phil Collins.
Hey, what's he ever done? Anyway, but I have to say, I think you are the youngest guest I have ever had on here. The next youngest was, speaking of Phil Collins, was actually Nick Collins. Nick's been on a couple of times. So yeah, you're officially the youngest. The youngest guest. I don't know who the oldest would be. Maybe I shouldn't say. I don't know. So it's a pleasure to have you here. And so, how's things going at the moment? All good for you? That's a stupid question, I know.
Very busy. Everything's picking up. All over the place, traveling. My goal, when it became 2023, I was like, I want to have a gig a month at least of traveling, not even just at home, but be on a flight once a month. And now, by just manifesting and working on it, that's starting to become true, and it's a lot. So I'm very grateful to be very busy, but yeah, very busy.
So you're in the place you wanted to be, and
exactly.
Yeah, and you've manufactured your career so far yourself all along, haven't you? You've kind of, I mean, we haven't spoken about this, of course, but it would seem that you've just worked so hard to get where you are now. Would you agree with that? Everything's come to fruition for you, hasn't it?
Yeah,
Ish.
Yeah, I felt like I had to kind of pave my own path a little bit in a lot of ways, because I didn't really fit into the typical models of whether it was get out of high school, go to music school, get a job, or play in clubs and things like that. I just wanted to form my own complete path, and using social media and working hard and connections and just work. Slowly but surely trying to work at it.
Yeah, just incredible. I mean, the content that you have online anyway, there's an endless supply of footage to watch, and how long does it take for the average video that you do? There probably isn't an average, I guess, but
well, so my biggest thing was people always talk about like quality over quantity and this and that. My biggest idea was consistency, quality, but also I have a certain level of, when I play it, the same way I approach my gear setup or anything else, no frills. I'm not gonna sit here and nitpick of like, oh, this one lug is out of tune compared to the other. I gotta remake the video. Like, so I'm really like at 30 minutes, the max, 45 minutes maybe, because
Wow.
the rest I'm spending practicing, working,
Mm.
if I'm at the gym or if I'm getting ready for another gig or fly, So it's like I never wanted to be stuck and be like 4 hours into making a video. Of course, there's the exception of there's been some videos where I'm like, all right, this is an hour 5, take 1,000,000, but it's worth it. But for the average video, way less than an hour. Like maybe
Wow. Okay.
maybe 45 is the max.
Hmm. So I'm
Mhm.
guessing is the room we're talking to you in now, is that the room where you actually you're where you play and everything?
Yeah, so I'm sitting at my little desk here, then the drum set is right there, as you can
Oh,
see
with
in
the
the camera.
famous
Usually
sign. Cool.
over here, or it could be on the other side. But yeah, it's just a little room, my
And I
basement.
see you've got a mix of is that a mix of models or just a mix of finishes you've got on the drum set there?
Yeah, so just like I was talking about, um, I have 2 main kits. I have a Pearl President Series kit that I got last year, and then the first kit I got when I joined Pearl 3 years ago, I'm gonna say now, was a, maple gum kit. So that's
Mm,
that white. So I'm using the bass drum, the 20-inch bass drum from that, and 12-inch rack tom, 16-inch floor from 16-inch floor tom from the President Series kit, and then that's actually a George Way snare made by
ooh,
Rondinet. Yeah.
nice. Very
Mhm.
nice indeed. So do you find that set works best for everything or just is it for a certain
Um, yeah, so actually I was using the President Series bass from the 22 for a long time, and then I recently played with DJ Premier. I got a gig playing with DJ Premier. We went to
Mm,
Paris,
yeah, sure.
and when I was preparing for that, I was like, playing more hip hop and that kind of styles. I was like, I need a little punchier, tighter sounding bass drum. Let's pull out the 20. And actually, coincidentally, me being not really picky, I didn't really think of it that way until I actually broke the spurs on the 22. I don't know how. I broke the spurs somehow on my 22, and I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna use the 20-inch kick, but it worked out.
I don't think I've ever heard of anybody breaking spurs.
Me
It
neither. Me
by
neither.
actually playing them, not setting
Yeah,
them up.
not setting it up, just
Wow,
literally playing it. I was like, oh well, I guess just repeated vibration or something. I mean, I kick pretty hard, but like, I
that's
don't know.
something to be proud of?
Sorry.
I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Who knows? Even so I'm guessing then, you pretty much, obviously to save time, I guess you've got presets loaded into whatever your DAW system is, your recording system. No?
Nope. So
Really?
I will do when you're talking about mixing wise,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll honestly add a little bit of EQ, a little compression, and that's it. That's
Really?
basically it. For the longest time, I didn't even care. I honestly would go straight from Logic, add the song in, post it, and then finally, I had some people convince me, they're like, "Why don't you use a little EQ?" So I was like, "Okay," and then I would just literally I used to click just like EQ, drums, tom, and just do whatever Logic was. Now I know a little bit about it, so I use like, a little basic EQ and compression, but nothing crazy.
So you're not nerdy about sound
No,
engineering record
no. I
really?
used to be really nerdy about my drum setup and
Mm,
tuning and like, oh, the bottom head needs to be this compared to the top head and this. Then I remember Billy Reimer, a good friend of mine, amazing drummer of Dillinger Escape Plan, came over,
mm,
and at the time I was maybe 13 to 15, somewhere in there, and my bass drum was tuned, I guess, in his eyes, way, way, way too tight. I remember he pulled the top floor tom away, throws the bass drum down, starts unloosening it, detensioning it, and I freaked out in my mind because I'm like, my gosh, my perfectly placed cymbals and my perfectly placed floor tom, it'll never be the same again. Then I see this man put the bass drum back, put the pedal back on, pull the floor tom kind of close, and rip on the kit without even caring.
mm,
Better than I could ever play while caring. And that kinda showed me that none of that matters.
mm,
It really at the end of the day, 'cause and then I also watch, just like we were speaking before the actual, recording, all these old big band drummers, old rock drummers, whatever, they didn't care.
mm,
It wasn't
mm.
like they had the either time or money or ability to be like, "Oh, sorry, the one tension rod's a little loose compared to the other." Like, no, we gotta do work. So it really was like a necessity thing of I can't worry anymore. I just don't have the time to worry.
Do you know what? That's probably anybody who's watching or listening, it goes out on YouTube and as a podcast. Any young drummer will probably breathe a sigh of relief
Oh,
after hearing you say that and go, "Oh, the fact that my floor tom does this, does it really matter?
does not matter.
It's gone
It
in a
does
heartbeat,
not
hasn't it?" Yeah,
I'll argue maybe like, okay, maybe get your seat right to where your back doesn't hurt and like you feel comfortable, of course.
yeah.
And for me, I like to have my snare drum relatively tight just so it feels good
Mm,
on my hands. But other than that, I'm not gonna sit here and simply I just don't feel like I have the time to like sit here and be like, oh no, the floor time's an E. It should be an E flat and like the key of like, oh boy. Like I just can't
yeah.
do that.
So intervals between toms doesn't interest
No,
you. If they sound good,
no.
fine.
As long as it sounds good, it doesn't matter to me.
But that's refreshing, isn't it, to hear,
It is.
'cause
It
so
is.
many, people get really anal about it, and
Oh, yeah.
it gets a little bit boring. It's nice to hear someone
I
say something
guess, like,
different.
I mean, if that's your thing and that's, like, more of your hobby part of it, like, if
Yeah.
you maybe you wanna have the actual profession and the hobby part of it separate,
Mm.
I guess you could worry and have the time, but for me, it was, like, realistically, practicality-wise, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And also, when I thought about it this way, I'm like, I'm making videos for the internet.
Mm.
If I
Yeah.
tune my tom 1/2 turn more, is it gonna sound any different on the video? Not really, you know? And
Mm.
I used to be more anal about it and more like everything needs to, that cymbal height needs to be perfect. And then I watched these big band drummers and they would knock things over and just pull it closer and just keep going. And when I realized that they were way better than I ever was when nitpicking,
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I should worry about getting that good first and then I can worry about being perfect with the drum setup.
You talk a
So
lot
for
of
me, it's all
sense.
about priority.
You
Exactly.
talk a
For me, it
lot
was
of
just about
sense.
priority.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's cool. So obviously, you I want to say emulate a lot of drummers, and I mean this totally respectfully because this is what you've kind of built up your incredible career so far doing. So
Hmm.
when you listen to Buddy Rich or when you listen to Gene Krupa or whoever it might be, do you
Hmm.
listening to their tunings doesn't you don't you just get it somewhere ballpark to them, or do you even not
Um,
bother with that?
Honestly, no. So, like, for when I was very young, I set up my drum set just like Carter Beauford at one point. I
Yeah,
learned how to play open-handed because he's my favorite drummer, will always be my number one. He was my first big influence.
yeah.
And in that case, I was like, oh, I really want the boomy, really amazing sounding toms he had. And then after that, from somebody like Buddy or Sonny or Gene Krupa, any of those people, Louis, I would try to emulate maybe the snare sound,
Mhm.
but everything else, it really was personal preference of it doesn't matter that much to me. And also, it was like I couldn't imagine me changing tuning video to video either.
Mm,
I could never imagine me going, "Oh, I'm gonna play like this person, so let me change to sound like this for this person."
mm. Yeah, well,
Mhm,
that's and it's interesting because even it kind of brings me on to my next point a little bit. But
mhm.
even when you go for the non big band stuff, the Tool stuff or the Black Sabbath stuff,
Yeah,
the drum sounds don't change, which is really
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And I've always been, I'd gone from a giant kit to a small kit to a giant kit to a small kit, and then I realized watching just every style of music, whether it was hardcore punk or rock or jazz or fusion, whatever. And I was like, there's a median. Of course, there's going to be people in jazz who have giant kits and people in jazz who have tiny kits and people in rock who have giant kits and tiny kits. I was like, the median is what? A rack tom, floor tom, or two, and a snare drum, and, you know, two crashes in a ride, something like that. It's
mm,
always kind of that's always the median. I was like, if I can learn how to rip on that and sound really good in any style on that, I got it covered. And that was the thing of like, I could always be put on a giant kit and enjoy it and have fun with it.
sure,
But I never wanted to be like, oh no, I don't have 18 cymbals. I don't know what to do, you
yeah,
know? So for me, it was really a necessity thing of no matter where I was in the world, no matter what kit I was playing, I'd be comfortable. And as an example, even this gig I just played in Paris, of course, backline company's incredible, whatever, but there's always going to be something. Not, I'm not going to say wrong, but there's not. You're never going to be as comfortable as when you are home.
of course,
Just like I'm sure, if you went somewhere else, you might not be as comfortable as the kid right behind you right now.
yeah, of course,
But it's just the same idea of like I wanted to be as I wanted to have the confidence in myself of no matter where I go in the world, even if I'm in Paris playing a random drum set at some random venue, I know I can play the parts I need to play, and the gear doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, that isn't that a nice it's almost like a safety blanket, isn't it? Or a comfort blanket,
Mhm.
whichever. You know you're just gonna be able to do, are you at least, picky with sizes of toms? Are you or even that, are you kind of open to change?
Honestly, other than if my seat height's right, my snare drum is 13, 14, 15, somewhere like, I'm not, of course I wouldn't feel good playing like an 8-inch snare drum, but,
Oh,
other than that, really, I'm fine. Other than that, really not picky.
wow. So,
Yeah.
when people sort your backline out and are kinda going, "Oh, no, what's it gonna be like?" It's just whatever you've got. So, easiest
Literally on my rider, it's pearl drums and my bass drum sizes say 18 to 24, and I'm like, "I don't care what series, I don't care what as long as it's pearl, I don't care, because I know that all the pearl will be great,
Mhm.
toms, it could be a 10-inch rack or it could be a 14-inch rack, between there, yeah, and that's just I think it's just out of necessity, it's just
Mhm.
I come from a very hardworking life,
Mm.
um, and family, and just I never really had time to be kind of, I don't know, drum privileged, if that makes sense, because I
Sure.
worked for everything I've ever had, shoveled snow here in New York to buy cymbals and would find cymbals at, guitar centers and basements of music stores, and so I never was kind of like, "Oh, I need to have the perfect, $10,000 drum set to sound good." That was never my thing.
Yeah, well, I think you've more than proved that, I'll be honest. What you've done is incredible.
Thank you.
So obviously we've talked about the drums, and one thing you're known obviously for your incredible left hand technique, which is just mesmerizing to watch, and I'm sure you've heard that a million times over. So I'm not going to dwell on it. But
Thank
you
you.
also play match grip. Now, it's really weird because I've seen you playing like Black Sabbath stuff with match grip, Tool stuff with traditional grip. What dictates to you? Because it kind of breaks all the rules. Well, there's no rules, I know, but do you get where I'm coming from?
I do. So I started playing Match Grip. That's how I started.
Mm,
And I played Match Grip until I was 17. And then I learned traditional. And then I said to myself, I want to have equal facility with both matched and traditional, which I would say I'm pretty close. Basically as close as I'll ever get. I'm
yeah,
gonna keep building both equally, but I have, I never when I learned traditional, it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna spend 4 months on only, I spent time, but I always went back to matched and kept that going. Um, when you're speaking video wise, um, versus live playing,
mm,
the video wise, honestly, it was just kind of either out of spite or just to be different.
really,
Because I knew that playing Tool with a traditional grip would be something people would be like, "What?"
yeah,
At the end of the day, it's about separating yourself. So that was something I could do, whether it was playing Meshuggah in a suit or, um, the list goes on, or Black Sabbath,
yeah,
with match grip. But also, I try to have fun with it. I always kind of try to keep things fresh. If I played the same song traditional, maybe I'll play it with match this time or something like that. But really, all this stuff comes down to is trying to separate myself
yeah.
in some sort of way.
Amazing. So it's not there's not a technical reason. It's purely just to be different and just to
Just to be different and
yeah,
not in like a showy, like, "Oh, I'm better" way, because that's never my intention,
of
but it
course.
was really like it's a every person for themselves kinda world in a lot of ways, and I realized I needed to separate myself, and it was a decision of something I need to make it new. There's a million people playing that same song.
Mm,
These songs, I realized, like, of course, some of the jazz songs are a little more obscure, and maybe there aren't so many people, but a Tool song or a Black Sabbath song or you name it, millions of people have covered it.
mm, yeah,
And I realized I needed to somehow make it different,
yeah.
somehow.
It's
And
kind of
also and even if I played it with traditional grip and I add my own flair to it, I'm adding my own flair to it. I'm making it my own.
mm.
So that was always my goal.
Well, I think it's worked. Put it that way. Well, it's worked, obviously, but
Thank you.
so you didn't come to traditional grip until 17. So
Yeah.
that's not that long. I mean,
20,
just how old are you now, Grayson?
20.
20. So 3.5 years. And
Yeah.
you look at that grip, and that's a grip that, somebody who's been playing 30 odd years. How much work have you put into that, into
A lot.
traditional alone?
A lot. I mean, there was times where I'd spend 8 hours straight practicing, you know, and I don't know if it was so much just the time put in or if it was the mindset behind it because I had that same mindset of I'm gonna do it no matter what anybody says. And I honestly threw out a lot of what I was told and taught how to play it. And it
Yeah.
wasn't a disrespect thing, but it was like the original way I was taught wasn't working for me.
Mhm.
Keeping the wrist very flat and very traditional grip traditionally,
Yeah, yeah,
if you
yeah,
get what
I'm
I'm
with
trying
you.
to say. And it was very orchestral and very it was great for playing on a snare drum standing up.
Mm.
But once I got to the drum set, I said, that's not working for me. So then something as simple as I started to turn my hand over and started to use more of my thumb and my fingers. And then, of course, at first it felt so uncomfortable. And I said to myself, this isn't going to work good. And then I just grinded on it. And I had a very specific mindset that was the whole time I was learning drums when I was a kid, I always would look at, say, Carter Beauford, and I'd say, if I wanted to play a song by Carter, I would need to get all my attributes of drumming up to his level, and then I could play, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I switched my mindset, and it's not necessarily um, a truth, but my mind changed to I'm just gonna work really freaking hard to learn this one song, and I don't care if I have to play it one note per 5 minutes. I'm still technically playing it, and then I'm gonna speed it up till it's the exact speed, and then I'm technically playing the exact thing as Carter. Now, as a drummer, I'm not as good as Carter, but I did just play the exact same part.
Mm.
And I took that mindset and implemented it to every drummer, whether it was Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa, whatever. So I'd watch a Buddy Rich video and say, okay, I can either stress myself out and say, I'll never be as good as Buddy Rich, and I got to practice my independence, or no, I could spend time tackling very specifically, very pinpoint focused on this video, this song, get just that down, get my speed up to that video speed, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
And then, hey, yes, in retrospect, I am playing the exact thing as Buddy Rich. Now, in my head, I'm never going to psych myself out and be like, oh my God, I'm playing as fast as Buddy Rich. But that felt way better for me to pinpoint focus on, like, let's get that done, that
Mm.
task done, instead of let's just become an overall better drummer till I'm at that level.
Wow.
It's just all a mindset thing.
That's your dedication. Have you always been this dedicated from like a young age?
Um, Everything changed when I was 10. I got very, very, very ill. Almost died actually at 10 years old. Yeah. Got sick twice. And when I was 10, all I had was drumming. So playing on hospital bed rails, playing at home. I had a home tutor. It was crazy. The most awful experience of my life, but also the best in retrospect because it taught me a lot. But it made me grow up at basically 10 years old,
Mm.
and it taught me how to work hard. So I
Wow.
couldn't be more thankful in that way of this is who I am today from it. And I don't think I'd be able to play like I do if that hadn't happened to me.
Wow. Just incredible. I can't help but smile when I hear the story and I see what you've achieved at 20 years
Thank you.
old.
Thank you.
Incredible. And
Thank you.
when non-musicians know who you are, that's quite a compliment, isn't it? They go, "Oh, that's yeah, that's the Flintstones guy," and
Yeah,
that's
it's
cool, right?
really interesting because it's like I've noticed through the whole whether it was the suit thing or the traditional grip in metal songs, whatever it was to separate myself, um, alongside going with breaking that mold and making my own path,
Mm.
I did started I did start to kind of more attract an audience that wasn't just drummers and musicians. It was, hey, he's bringing back the entertainment value of drumming in a lot of ways. Because I always look up to Sonny Payne and Buddy Rich and all these people who they were incredible drummers, but there were a lot of people watching and going to their shows because of what? It was an entertainment thing.
Yeah.
It was a thing to go see. Now, like I've said this in many times, there was, of course, millions of people went to go see Count Basie Orchestra live.
Hmm.
I can guarantee you, I'm sure there were some people in that audience who were going to see Sonny Payne do a crazy drum solo and juggle his sticks because it was something to see, just like going to watch sports.
Mm.
Why do we go watch sports? Because it's entertainment. Why do we go to the circus? Because it's entertainment. You know, so some reason I was being kind of told through education of like, hey, shh, quiet down. Like you're a drummer, go in the back, keep the beat, stay in the groove only. And I was like, yeah, it's great for gigs like I just did last week in Paris.
Hmm.
But I wanted to bring back the entertainment value of, hey, I'm a drummer. This is a really interesting thing to watch and listen to. Non-drummers, you can enjoy it again. And that was always my goal. And I was like, I want to bring that back. And of course, there's tons of opposition to that because it's like, oh, you overplay, you this and you that. It's, for tricks are for kids. And it's like, that's great. But at the end of the day, what's more entertaining? Watching somebody play a pocket? That might be more entertaining for a musician or a band leader for the job.
Yeah.
But filling the role for the gig and the job versus being entertaining for the average watcher and listener are two completely different things.
And I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's horses for courses. You're not saying this is what I do. I'm just going to hold a groove down for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's about the show, and what a
At
show!
certain points, like, we just played the Amiri Runway show, the
Mm.
Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah.
That is the greatest example because that show, one of the biggest events in the world every year,
Mhm.
and live streamed all across the world. There's clips all over the internet. I'm playing the most in the pocket kind of groove based job. That was like, hey, this is the task. Keep the groove, stay in the pocket, support the band. That was the job. But then there was like an after party set where, hey, let's have fun. Let's have, so, but that was the perfect example in my mind of like, okay, this is what I've been saying for years. And now it's finally happening of like, these are the two different sides of it.
Yeah.
And I think people tend to either drop the ball on one or the other and not realize that both kind of can exist equally.
Of course they can. Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, it's a sign of professionalism at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You want to be able
Mhm.
to drop in into whatever situation you need to. And as you said, I've
1,000%.
seen the footage, and it's just laying it down, and that gives hope to anybody watching you, any youngster watching, going, "He's just playing a groove. I could play that." Might not
Yeah.
play it as well, but they can play it. It's a
Yeah.
starting point. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's cool. Yeah, that's good.
Absolutely.
Amazing stuff. And it kind of brings me on to my next point, and that is obviously your talent is known worldwide by many people, and we were talking about drum shows and different things. And how do your peers react to you? I mean, guys who've been at the highest level for so many years, and is there ever any excuse me, ever any jealousy or I'm not after names or anything, but are you generally, do you get on okay with everyone? And
I think the biggest issue, which is just a worldwide issue of the whole social media thing, is people tend to judge people's personalities before they meet them just based on videos.
yeah.
Not even interviews,
Mm.
and that's like kind of scary and sad to me because there's been a lot of times where people have a preconceived notion of like, oh, he might be cocky. And I don't know why, because I'm wearing suits and people think you're pretentious or you're this or that. People think that about anybody.
Mm.
And then you actually meet them and you're like, they're a really nice person.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest thing for me. And and I don't, of course, there's been times where people don't respect you because you're just younger.
Mm.
And for all the younger listeners, that's a thing everybody's going to face. I faced it. I'm sure you faced it with whatever. Anybody's going to face it in whatever they're doing in life.
Mm.
It's just a fact.
Mm.
But for me, my idea was like, I'm just going to go in there and just kill them with kindness and be genuine and be who I am. And, you know, all you can be is the nicest person you are and the most genuine you are. And you can never fake it. You can never be like, oh, I'm going to be nice just to be nice. No, if you're a genuine person, you're a genuine person. But I think the biggest takeaway is just never judge a person's character just on videos. It's like the equivalent of if you never went on FaceTime or called somebody, but you only texted with them,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's like them adding a period versus exclamation point. It's like these stupid little mind games that happen. And so, if anything, it was really just more of, uh, I guess, hesitation towards me. I felt at times of like, I don't know how he is, and maybe like a little standoffishness. Um, but I've squashed that pretty quickly. And I'm really glad to say that. And so I'm just excited to meet more people and get out there more.
That's cool. It's nice to hear. So, yeah, be as nice as pie and then get on stage and slay
Exactly.
it. Absolutely
Exactly.
slay it.
And honestly, let your playing speak for itself.
Yeah.
And if people don't like your playing, that's their problem. I heard one of the best quotes from Bill Burr, the comedian. He was talking about comedy, but it actually applies to really anything. And I've taken it to heart. And he was talking about um, the equivalent is if I went into a restaurant and I didn't like the food, and I told the chef how I felt, and then I went to the restaurant and told everybody in the restaurant, "Hey, I don't like the food, so all of you have to leave too."
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
like the food, you can leave. So I felt the same way of like, you can't really please everybody.
Mm.
You can try your best. It's not gonna happen. So I would say just play for who you are, what you genuinely believe in. And if not everybody's gonna like you, but also you can't please everybody. You can't, try to fake your way and play to everybody's cup of tea,
Yeah.
you know? So if anything, it's just be the nicest person you can be and play what you want to play, and who cares what anybody thinks
I
other
think
than
that's a
that.
fantastic attitude, and you've got a very old head, wise head on young shoulders, I have to say, and
Thank you.
who knows where it's going to lead. So I have to ask, what is the average day in the life of you, Grayson? I mean, what do you is obviously I appreciate some days are going to be different if you're going away on planes, I think, but you're at home for a day. Do you have like a routine of stuff that you do?
Oh yeah. So always start the morning going to the gym.
Okay.
Um, whether I'm running, I love running. Did a marathon and trained for another, and um, when I'm going to the gym or running, whatever, doing something physical. Then I'll usually typically film a video or two,
Mhm.
practice, answer emails. That's what I was actually doing before this. I was just sitting here answering emails.
Cool.
Very fun. Um, and then basically do that through the afternoon. Do whatever else I have to do, whether it's getting ready for a gig or practicing, or honestly, a lot of it's mental too,
Mhm.
getting ready for a gig or preparing for learning music or whatever. And I'll actually try to do it every afternoon. Right now in New York, it's freezing cold, so it's a little tough. But I'll if I have to learn a lot of songs, I'll actually listen to them while I go for like a crazy long walk. That's like my number one thing I do every day.
Yeah.
I'll go on like an hour and a half, 2 hour walk. It sounds crazy, but it works. Clears your head. You listen, you learn the songs. It works.
Yeah.
Um, and then honestly, at night, I'll work on these drum head drawings I've been doing, which I don't know if you've seen, but that's like the latest passion project of mine, in which I take old drum heads, which I've used either from this past tour I went on or clinics or whatever, and I'll actually do these drawing designs on them and then post them up.
Oh, that's cool. So is art something you've always done, or is it sort of a recent kind of thing?
Um, did it when I was a kid,
Mm.
fell out of it, fell out of love with it for few years, and then just got back into it maybe 6 months ago.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
found it again, and I was like, you know what, this is kind of fun. So at night, I'll put on a podcast and do it for a
That's
few hours every
amazing.
night. Yeah.
Wow. See, so you're not the kind of guy who'll just do what you need to do and then stick Netflix on and
No,
sleep on the couch.
no. My version of putting on Netflix and relaxing is seriously putting on a podcast, having some coffee, and just sitting there with Sharpies
Yeah,
and a drum head and doing these designs.
that's cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not much of a TV fan. I love podcast. Obviously, this is a podcast. I don't
Mhm.
listen to my own, but there's plenty out there that I do listen to. Not all drumming based, but
Yeah.
and I just find it's much more relaxing and yeah, like you can do other
Yeah.
things
That
while you're doing it, as you've
that's
said.
my thing. Even when I'm walking or running, I'll put on a podcast or, um the coloring thing's so much fun, and it's fun because I'll post it and I auction them off on eBay sometimes, and it's really just
It's cool.
um the drum heads are gonna go in the garbage if not. You know, it's
Yeah.
just a fun way to recycle them, and it's a fun activity, so I
Oh.
really enjoy it.
Do you have a favorite podcast, by the way? Or
Oh,
favorites?
Joey Diaz by
Really?
far,
Yeah.
Canadian. Oh my gosh, him, Bert Kreischer. I'm a big comedy podcast guy.
Yeah.
Dean Delray, Bill Burr, Tim Dillon, all those guys.
So
Hilarious.
you've got endless sort of episodes
Oh,
to go at then.
oh, 1000%. Yeah. I'll
Yeah.
just type in like I'll just at this point what I'm doing, and it's so desperate, is I'll just type in two of those podcasters' names on YouTube and just watch random clips from random podcasts.
Oh, amazing. Well, you know what? We've had a great insight into your life, what makes you tick, you know. But the great news for us over in the UK, we get to see you at the UK Drum Show, which is it's been a bit of a long wait for us because we had the last UK Drum Show was not the September just gone, it was September 20 was it just gone? No, it was April, sorry, it was April last year. So April
Whoa.
22. So, and now it's going to be, I think it's the end of September and October the
Yeah,
1st, 23. So we've had quite a long wait. And you're keeping some serious company on the main stage, aren't you? We were talking about
I
this
am.
before we hit
I'm
record. So
I'm so excited. It's gonna
uh,
be awesome. Can't wait.
So I think I'm gonna even give you the time that you're on. Obviously, this could change, so don't sue me if
Ooh,
he's not on at exactly this time. But you're on at 2:15 in the afternoon on the Sunday, and that's
awesome.
over in Liverpool. And I think did you say you were on with in between? Was it Jojo Mayer and?
On the website, I don't know about the timings, but I looked on the
Okay,
website of who else in company, and I was just like, okay, this is crazy. Like pinch me moment.
but do you know? Because I know that some of the drummers are on. There's Mark Brzezicki and there's Jojo Mayer, obviously household names. But they don't do what you do, and you don't do what they do. So that is, it's all about keeping it fresh and keeping it exciting, and
Absolutely.
I think that's the best way, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a pinch me moment, but then it's also a kind of like a kick in the face of all the hard work I've done.
Mm,
So it's a nice balance of like, yeah, you've earned this because you've worked your butt off.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, damn, what am I what? So it's a nice combination.
Well, we're looking forward to having you over here and getting to see you in the flesh. Are
Thank you.
you the type of person that goes to a drum show and you hide away, or do you go and have a look around because there's so much product there?
No, so that's really funny. So during the Quebec drum show, which was my first drum fest, when I first got there, I was actually with my mother, and we went around, and good friend Ron Danette, he was basically my bodyguard during the entire thing. And he's like, "Dum dum, you can't just walk around these things just like by yourself." Cause I'm like, a little airhead. I'm like, I'm just gonna go like explore and just like figure like find drums. He's like, you can't do that. So then he's like, we'll go. This is actually a really funny story. So he's like, we'll go play because I was like, I want to go see your drums or whatever. He's like, okay, well come play this snare drum, whatever. Um, while everybody is still in the exhibition hall. And I'm like, okay. And I don't know exactly. It wasn't like a main stage performance. It was some maybe like a introductory meeting or whatever it was, right? And so I'm playing and I get carried away and I'm sitting there talking to him and he looks at me. He's like, "You gotta get like out." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Because they're opening the doors." So within like 10 minutes, the booth is swarmed.
Yeah,
And that's when I realized I was like, "Oh no, maybe I like gotta hide away a little bit." But no, I love it. I love just walking around and seeing everything. So I would definitely be walking around.
cool. Well, it's one of those where you're wandering about and you see somebody walk past and you're like, "Was that now?" And then you're like, "Oh, and then you see him again. And it really is, but a lot of the time, which is really nice, people don't bother people. They're just a bit embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's a British thing. They're like, "Oh, well, we won't say anything. We'll just sort of, hey, one of them, you know."
That was not the Quebec thing. They were super nice, but it was funny because I I was just kind of an idiot because kept playing, and Ron's like, "Try out this snare drum," and he hands me sticks, and of course I'm gonna play it. So then I didn't realize like, oh, people can hear me playing, and then they're like, "Who's playing?" And then I was like, "Oh no, oh no, bad mistake."
Oh, amazing stuff. Look, Honestly, this has been an absolute
Thank
joy
you.
talking to you, and
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. I really appreciate you giving your
Absolutely.
afternoon. You've probably missed out on, I don't know, 4 miles of running or something
No.
to do this. But
Too
I'm really
sweet.
looking
Thank you for
forward to,
having me.
hopefully I can we can get to say hello at the UK Drum Show, and
Absolutely.
it would be great to see you. So thanks once again, and you
Absolutely.
know, all the best for whatever's coming up in the next few months, and we'll see you
Thank you.
soon. Cheers, Grayson.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
See you soon.